Nigerians, Atiku is not ready to give up soon. Not at all. Atiku has been firing the federal government back to back. First of all, we were told that he took the case of President Bola Tinubu's forfeiture of the money that was linked to narcotic proceeds back to US, and he had a lobby, people that could sponsor this case to President Trump's table so that they will mount pressure on Tinubu, since Tinubu has been mounting pressure on him. So he is not ready to quit soon. After the issue went on and they blasted him from the spokesman of the presidency, from President Tinubu's spokesman, even APC spokesman, all of them came out and were firing him. But Mr. Atiku is ready for battle. Since they do not want him to contest for this 2027 election, he is well prepared also not to give them rest. Just as they said, a child that says his mother will not sleep, he or she too will not sleep. I came across this news on X. It was actually on Nigeria Stories rather. Breaking news. Former Vice President and Africa Democratic Congress presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has challenged the federal government to explain what he described as an estimated 7.98 trillion oil revenue windfall, questioning why the administration continues to embark on massive domestic borrowing despite benefiting from crude oil prices far above the 2026 budget benchmark. What happens is this: in every year, when the federal government is preparing the budget, normally they have a benchmark for a crude oil sale, since most of the revenue generated for the budget, the annual budget, and every other expenditure the federal governments are making is based on the oil revenue, because basically that's what is giving Nigeria money for now. So they have a fixed price which they peg the budget on, meaning that if oil price stays or floats within 65 to $70, the budget will be prepared based on the revenue that will be generated from that amount on the price of crude oil per barrel. So coming into 2027, the Iran and the US war, Iran, US, and Israel war came up. And at the end of the day, basically when there's war, it affects the price of crude oil. And having it in mind that that route, that region where this war is happening, which is the Middle East, 20% of the oil that is used in the world flow through that axis, which is the Strait of Hormuz, that is close to most of the Middle East countries, that produces most of the oil that are used in the Asian continent and most of the European continents, because they have a very high deposit of oil from that side. And most of those countries are oil producing countries, like Bahrain, like Oman, like Saudi Arabia, like United Arab Emirates, like Kuwait, like Jordan, many of those countries, and also Iran, that are into this war too. So Iran had to block that route, and as a result, it's affected the price of oil. When there's a reduction in output, like in business, when there's a reduction in outputs or in supply, the price definitely will rise. It affects the price. So when I checked online, I tried to check the current price that the federal government puts the budget benchmark on, which is the oil price. I found out that, let me just read it out, and as I displaying it on the screen, you can see also. The federal government originally proposed an oil price benchmark of $64.85 per barrel for the 2026 budget, but the National Assembly subsequently adjusted and approved $60 per barrel to account for global market changes. That is to say, when there are fluctuations, which is a possibility in the world trade of crude oil. And then for the budget details, the executive proposal was $64.85 per barrel, initially presented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the legislative approval, which is the Senate approval, was $60 per barrel, and it was passed by the Senate in the MTEF. I don't know what that is. Then oil production target for the budget is 1.84 million barrels per day, which will account for the national budget. So as a result of this, a lot has been happening, and Atiku Abubakar is saying, I'm not going to sit down and just watch you people take this money just like that. Of course, now that the price has risen up, the government is getting excess money. That is to say, if you actually budgeted, or you prepared your product to sell for 15 naira, and as a result of maybe one or two exigencies, the cost of that your products maybe rose to about 100 naira. Of course, you're getting extra money. So what Atiku Abubakar is asking now is that, where is that extra money going to? That is the question that Nigerians should be asking, and a lot of Nigerians are not asking that question. So this question is quite sensitive, and Atiku Abubakar knows about all of this because he's a businessman, a business mogul, and he has been in Nigerian business environment for a very long time. So he knows all of this, and he was also the vice president during Olusegun Obasanjo, and that was for about 8 years. So he knows all of these games. That's why he's asking these questions. So this is really interesting. I want us to also just read through the comments of people. A lot of people are bashing Atiku Abubakar, and a lot of people are for his support. Nigeria is really a confused place. That even when some people are doing things that are bad, even though they are maybe doing terrible things, still they still have supporters. After all, they say even the devil still have supporters and loyalists. So let's read this first comment, which is coming from Olakunle, that is at Olakunle 56 on X. This comment are on X. Oga Atiku, go and return the $16 billion that was meant for the Nigerian electricity, and Tinubu government will explain the 7.98 trillion um, naira. You can imagine that. So if one person is doing evil or has done evil, that means it's a justification for another person to do evil too. That's what Olakunle is trying to say. That Atiku does not have any moral ground to ask or to challenge President Tinubu about this money. So if Atiku has stolen money before, that means President Bola Tinubu can do anything he likes. That's what he's trying to say. Tribalism and nepotism, a very big problem in the Nigerian political environment. And then this one is coming from Olayinka. At Olayinka, someone really need to address what is happening in Nigeria right now. We need to stop pretending and facing reality. Here, here we are in 2026, and it feels like there's no clear direction, vision, or plan for where this country is actually headed. Are we moving towards progress, or are we drifting towards destruction? Everyone seems to focus, everyone seems to focus. I couldn't get that completely, but that is coming from Olayinka. And then the next comment is coming from at Samuel King at Oladuja 19. If Atiku have shame, he's not supposed to put his mouth into anything called government in Nigeria. A man who sold Nigeria asset to enrich himself. If that happens in this country that I am living, USA, that's to say, he's trying to say that he's living in USA, Atiku will be behind bars by now. Atiku dream is to sell NNPC. Although, do you have evidence, Mr. Samuel King? Do you have evidence to back that up? And then let's move to another comment, which is 7G at. Okay, for the video not to be too long, we are stopping with that comment. Please, thank you for watching. If you have watched up to this moment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you in my next video.